Welcome back to BadgerBlitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Rivals.com national analyst Clint Cosgrove. Like we always say, buddy, best time of the week.
Best time of the week. Go.
Yeah, Bubby, let's get after it. Clint, it's been a very busy week for you with National Signing Day, the OG one, like I say, because, now it's December's the big one. But, here we are, post 2023 signing day. Badgers landed a big guy, literally and, metaphorically, in Jamel Howard on signing day. Just real quickly, Clint, you did his video with him. Just overall last impressions here before we put a bow, I should say, on the 2023 class.
You know what? It came down to relationships and the people in Madison and Madison itself. And he did explore those other options. He saw some of those big time programs that Wisconsin typically isn't recruiting against or winning against in the past. So he did his due diligence. And I think, he did enjoy himself down in Miami. I do know that. I think he did consider them at one point. He enjoyed all of them, but at the end of the day, he felt drawn to Wisconsin. There's a chance for early playing time for him. He's a perfect fit for what they're going to be doing schematically. And, it's just a big signing day win because as you get closer to that late signing period, guys like him, they're just not on the board. And that's a big reason why he blew up. Now, he's a high upside guy. He looks like an SEC player. He's got the ankles of like a skill player, but he can hold 320 pounds. So when he gets, his technique down and, has to rely less on his athleticism to make plays, and starts using his hands and beating people up, he's got a chance to be very good. So, coaches saw that, and I never get it because every year it happens. Everybody's scrambling for these big defensive tackles, big defensive ends at the end because they're all going after the elite kids at the beginning. And it's like they don't have a backup plan, and then they're all scrambling at the end. My approach would be a little different, I think. You've got to be deep on your board at that position because unless you land one of those elite guys early and can hold on to them, there's the drop off in talent. With guys that size is pretty big.
Yeah, we know that for the 24 class here, as we turn to that, Jay in Toronto, thanks for a couple of questions here that we're about to address here. One of them is 2024 defensive line talent. You talk about that drop off. Well, Justin Scott is that guy in the Midwest. But we've talked about some of the other guys that are up there. But has there been anyone else who has been bubbling up of late here in the Midwest along the defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, a big time kid named Tion Gray out of Hazelwood Central in St. Louis. The kid's 6'6", 305 pounds, plays offensive line, plays tight end, and plays defensive line. He wants to be a defensive lineman. Schools are recruiting him as a defensive lineman, and this kid can flat out play. If you turn on the film, you're going to see a kid with just massive size and athleticism and physicalness and ability to move in space. And he went into January with 3 offers. He's now up to 15, including, LSU and schools like that. He dropped a top 5 today. I think it was a top 5, of Colorado, Oregon, LSU, Minnesota, and who was the other one? I should know this. I just wrote it all up. But here's the thing with him is he dropped this top list pretty early, like right after he blew up, because coaches were just getting into school to see him and then watching the film and like, who is this guy? I mean, he's an elite difference maker or has the potential to be an elite difference maker. So I don't think this recruitment, it could last long and it could be a lot more than these 5 schools. And so I don't even think he knows how good he is and how good he can be, but he's a very special player that if I'm Wisconsin, I'm offering right away, regardless of him dropping a top 5 or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's, you literally just told me right before we start recording, hey, check him out. So it's, I think that it's really interesting the types of defensive linemen that they are going after. We may not see sort of all of the same body types. And, one of the other questions that Jay in Toronto had for us this week is talking about sort of those body types that you need in a 3-3-5 and how it's different from a 3-4. So what Jay wants to know is, what are some of the body types that we may not already have on the roster at Wisconsin, or that they need to, recruit towards that we haven't necessarily seen before?
Well, the big thing, I guess at all three levels, it's a little different. It's not a ton different, but it's a little different. I'll start with the front. You need big, strong, nasty guys. They don't even have to necessarily have a ton of length, but they have to be able to move well laterally. They have to be able to take on blocks, hold double teams, and really eat up blockers. Their job, since you're really down kind of an extra defensive lineman, is, to move that line of scrimmage back and, take blockers away from the second level guys so that they can roam free, which brings me to the linebackers. You've got your Sam, your Mike, and your Will, like you do in a traditional 4-down front. The difference is these guys they've got to be able to run, because a lot of the time they are used as an extra rusher. They're put on an island, like the Sam backer. He's a guy who's going to have to get after the passer a lot. He's a guy who's going to have to cover the tight end vertically. So there's a lot of, the 3-3-5 is just so confusing for the offensive line, because everybody, and I've talked about this before, the safeties can be part of the blitz. They can be part of the run defense. The offensive linemen, they have to double count basically the 6 guys in front of them, because the defensive linemen can go either way. The linebackers can go another. And so it's very confusing for an offensive line to identify what the defense is doing in the 3-3-5. Now, there are some extra holes because you're playing with more defensive backs. And that brings me to the defensive backs. And you got to have big guys that can run, basically. The safeties, well, I'll start with the corners. The corners especially, they've got to be able to cover. They can't get beat over the top, because a lot of the time the safeties are going to have run responsibilities or even come as an extra rusher. So you want to have some guys with length and range, and guys that can cover and can run, that are not going to get beat over the top. Your safeties, like I said, they're kind of a hybrid between a safety and a linebacker. They're involved in the run support. They are involved in the pass rush game. There's all kinds of different things you can do. The 3-3-5 just gives you so much versatility and confuses the offense a lot. So that's why, and you don't see it often. So it's almost like the triple option for a defense. You've got to prepare for it, and if you've never seen it, it can hurt you, and it can hurt you quick. The nickel is kind of like a hybrid type defensive back, linebacker. What you would like in a perfect world is one of those really athletic safeties that can hold up against the run, but can also be, cover the nickel and cover the slot guy. So, you're looking for big, strong, fast players, no matter what defense you're in. But the responsibilities are a little different. There's a lot of pressure on the safeties and corners. The defensive linemen, they got to be eating up blocks. They've got to knock the line of scrimmage back. And the linebackers, they got to be sideline to sideline defenders, and they got to be guys who can get after the passer. So, overall, you're looking for the same type of players, the best ones, the biggest ones, the fastest ones, but you're looking for guys who have a multitude of skill sets. It's not just like the safety. You need a guy with great range who can, if you're playing quarters coverage, come down and fill a gap. You need a safety that can be put on an island, that can come after the passer, that can be an extra linebacker when needed. And, and that puts pressure on the corners as well. So you got to have guys that can run, athleticism and, getting a lighter defense on the field, especially against today's offense, is important. And I like it from that standpoint. Now you talk Big Ten football and people worry about a 3-3 not being able to stop the run. Technically it looks like a 6-man box all the time, but you can get into an 8-man box very easily with those safeties. And so it can be good against the run. It can be great against the pass. It's just about how you execute and the body types you have back there. But it'll be fun to watch. I mean, there's very few teams that run it. There's very few people who understand the defense. It's basically Rocky Long kind of built his version of the 3-3-5, and a lot of people. Not a lot of people. He hasn't shared it with a lot of people, but
Gary
very few
Patterson's
people.
the only other one I've really seen it used like super extensively.
Yeah, Zach Arnett, who was with Rocky Long over at San Diego State. He's another guy. My dad's good friends with Rocky Long. He started doing some 3-3-5 stuff. It's kind of like a select group that really utilizes the defense. But if you know how to use it and you've got the body types to do it, it can be lethal.
Definitely. We had one other question we want to answer here from new person to the den. Welcome to the den, Mars6689. And
hey, welcome to the den.
Welcome to the
excited
den.
To have a new guy with new questions or girl, whoever it is. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on board. They want to know how coaches communicate with the recruits. For example, when you've got 6 offers out at running back, but you know you're only going to be taking 2. What's sort of like the protocol there?
There really isn't a set protocol, and everybody kind of does it differently. I mean, there's some schools who will just take the first 2, and then down the road, if they can get on one that they liked better, they end up dropping one. You've seen some of the big time programs do that, and Wisconsin might be trending in that direction. But I think, the Wisconsin approach is just being extremely transparent. We've got 2 spots. We've got 6 guys that we really like. You're at the top. These are the 2 body types that we're looking for. The first guy who wants to jump in the boat, you have that spot, but it's not guaranteed to you. So I don't think you pressure them. I think you just are extremely honest and transparent. You try to create a sense of urgency, especially for the guys that are highly, highly coveted, because you want to get them in the boat right away and hopefully hold on to them. Once you get that first guy in, then you have a better idea of really maybe who the complementary back is to that player, and you can pursue the rest of them at different levels. You can slow play guys. You can tell them that you are an offer, you are a take for us. Maybe we've taken one right now. We're going to be slow with our next take, and then on the back end, maybe be saying to another guy, you're the guy. If you want this spot, it is yours. If you don't, we're moving on. So I just think transparency is key. You've got to recruit as many good players, especially at a position like that, as you can, especially at Wisconsin. You sell the tradition. You sell being a Badger running back. And, you want guys who want to be there and be part of what you're building. And so I think that comes into it a lot as well. All the guys they've offered are pretty top-end, high-end backs that can present mismatches and have different skill sets. And I think they'll probably end up with a guy who's kind of an in-between the tackles guy. And then maybe you're kind of an all-purpose type in a perfect world. But the backs they're after are big time. It's not like any of them's a shoe-in. And so you've got to keep recruiting them hard until you get the 2 that you want, or get the 2 that you've offered and would take. So it's a delicate balance, but if done correctly, it's not as hard as it may seem to be.
Yeah, I think that, I imagine I should say that it could be tricky, especially if you have a guy that really wants to commit, but he's the 4th person on your board, right? And you feel good about them, but not great. And how do you sort of navigate that situation? That's where the interpersonal part of coaching becomes, just as important as what you're doing in practice, day in and day out. So it is it would also, for me, it would just be a constant source of stress. I couldn't do it. It is.
I at times, one of the reasons when I was getting out of football, I was like, thank God I am, because we had a kid that we wanted. He came on campus. They were ready to commit. And all of a sudden the head coach didn't want to take him. And, these are relationships that you build. And it's a lot easier to have the conversation that you're talking about. Like maybe you're a 4th guy. If you've built that relationship, you've built that trust, and they know that you have their best interest in mind, I think you can really communicate well with them. You can lay out the situation. It's not that we don't like you. It's just this is kind of the other skill set that we're looking for, or the complementary skill set that we're looking for. And, if you don't want to hop on this spot right now, we might start pursuing some of these other guys a little harder. At the end of the day, it's all about relationships and how you package what you're doing and how you sell your program. Big time players who aren't afraid of competition, they're not going to care. But yeah, there's a million ways to do it. My way has just always been being open and honest, and developing a relationship that at the end of the day, if everything falls apart, you can fall back on that. And, you show the kids that you love them up. You love them up, that you want what's best for them. But you also are trying to build a program and compete as well. And it all typically works out in the end.
Well, we will finish out today with one of the relationships, I should say, that the Badgers are building is with Koi Perich from up there in Minnesota. He was down at one of the Badger Junior Days recently. And I wanted, we got to bring in the DB master here to talk safeties, break down the film. We know you guys enjoy it. I certainly enjoy it. And I think this is an interesting prospect. 6'2", 180. You see the athleticism on film, definitely the smooth athleticism. For me, it's tough to gauge the competition. I don't know, how strong competition he's going up against, because, sometimes it just looks like he is far and away the biggest, strongest, fastest athlete on the field. And that can be really deceiving.
Yeah.
So, Clint, tell us a little bit more about what you see on the tape here, and talking 3-3-5, how he kind of fits into that.
Yeah, well, starting off with, he is pretty dominant on film. He looks bigger, faster, stronger than the guys that he's playing against. The level of football, it can be good in Minnesota. It's not phenomenal, but you will go against some very good players, similar to that of football in Wisconsin. So a lot of these guys that come from Minnesota, that come from Wisconsin, they're hard-nosed, tough kids. You look at this first play here, great range, see the ball skills there, and then his ability to transition from the interception going the opposite way to try and make a play with the ball and return it. You'll see him here make some cuts. He's a tall guy. See, I love that quick little dropping of his hips and shift. His ability to bend does stick out, and his long stride sticks out. He sees the field very well, which is important as a safety. And then when you're talking the 3-3-5, you talk about those safeties who've got to be run support guys. They've got to play coverage. They've got to have range. And, he fits the bill with all of that. He's, like you said, 6'2", 180. This is a kid who could be 6'2", 210 pounds, 6'3", 200 something when he's in college. So he's almost like an athletic linebacker that can cover. And, that's really kind of what you're looking for in the 3-3-5. And I wouldn't be surprised if he can get after the passer as well. Ball skills, another thing important that I didn't talk about before. There's so much disruption that you can cause. Here, actually, you see him come down into the box and make a play right there. He's going to be asked to do that in the Wisconsin defense. So he's a great scheme fit. You love the measurables. You love the production on film. Like you said, you don't know if it's the greatest in the world, but a lot of the things you're seeing him do right here, look at him pull the trigger, identify the play, come downfield, butt up on a block. The block destruction was great. He's not afraid, to be physical. So he kind of fills that skill set. There you go, right there. Coming off the edge or closing on the ball. All of these things are so important. He's almost like a deep linebacker in this defense. And then when you watch him pull the trigger, and that burst that he has is really impressive. So I like all of that stuff about him. The amount of looks that you're forced to give, and as a safety in this defense, it's a very important position, and you've got to be very multifaceted in your skill set. And I see that in him, so I can definitely see why that they offered.
Yeah, and you see the football IQ. On screen, the instincts, and that's super essential for a safety. If there's one thing I've learned for you, it's in the 3-3-5, the instincts on the safety and be able to diagnose everything, because they need to kind of be everywhere and be able to line up anywhere in order to retain that versatility on the field. So that is going to do it for us here this week on Badger Blitz TV. Keep dropping your questions for us in the Badgers Den. keep following Clint on all the social medias at rival_Clint, and keep heading back to BadgerBlitz.com for all of the information that you need to keep up with all the exciting times around Badger football. So until next time, he's Clint. I'm Perko.
See ya in the den.
And we will see you guys in the den.